I never thought I'd be the type of guy to get blindsided like this. I mean, I thought I had it all figured out, married to Emily for 5 years, everything seeming smooth on the surface. We had our ups and downs, sure, but I always believed we were solid. Recently, though, something felt off. She'd be meaner than usual, snapping at me for the tiniest things and avoiding intimacy altogether. I'd catch her lying about where she was going or who she was with. Small stuff at first, missed calls, late nights, a strange number on her phone that she'd quickly delete or dismiss when I asked about it. It was during one of those nights I decided to follow her. It wasn't a full-blown stalker move, but enough to get a sense of what was going on. I parked outside her office building, my stomach clenched tight. I saw her slip into a parking garage, then minutes later, she got into a car that looked familiar. I kept my distance but watched her meet someone. It wasn't just a friendly coffee date, it looked more like a rendezvous. She was laughing, touching his arm, whispering into his ear like they were sharing a secret. That's when I saw it, something that made my blood run cold. A brief glimpse through the tinted window of the car. It was him. The guy looked like me, but not quite. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the same hair, same build. I realized, wait, how could I not have seen it before? This wasn't just some random guy, this was asterisk him. A body double, not just a look-alike, but trained to mimic my mannerisms, my voice, my presence. The Secret Service footage I'd hacked later confirmed it. They had a guy who looked exactly like me, trained to step into my shoes during public appearances, press conferences, even private moments. I always thought it was bizarre, but now I understood. My wife had been cheating on me with a fake version of me. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My head spun. I couldn't believe she'd go this far. How long had she been doing this? Was she even attracted to the real me anymore? Or was she just bored and decided to mess around with a guy who looked like her husband? The whole thing was sickening. I didn't even confront her then. I was too stunned, too angry, trying to process the fact that she'd been lying to my face while fucking a damn lookalike. That's when the realization hit me hard. She doesn't love me anymore. Not really. She's just been using me as a front, and the real betrayal isn't just the affair, it's the fact that she's been sneaking around with someone who's basically a puppet, a mirror of me. The worst part. I could still see her face in my mind, that bitchy smirk she'd wear when she thought she was winning, when she thought she was fooling everyone. She's always been one for lies, twisting stories, making herself the victim. I remember thinking, what the hell am I supposed to do now? How do you fight someone like that? I felt sick, furious, and truly lost. That was just the beginning of what turned out to be a complete nightmare. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I replayed everything I saw, trying to make sense of it all. The images haunted me. The way she smiled at him, the way she touched him, so natural, so intimate. It was like I'd been living with a stranger this whole time. And the worst part, I was pretty sure she thought she was fooling me, which made me even angrier. She's always been the bitchy type, quick with a lie, twisting things around to make herself look innocent. I knew I couldn't confront her right away, at least not until I had some clarity. I needed to think, to plan. The next day I kept my distance, pretending like nothing had happened. I went to work, but my mind was elsewhere. I kept analyzing her behavior, looking for clues. Sure enough, she was colder, more dismissive. She snapped at me over small things, like I'd insulted her in some way. I could tell she was hiding something, but I didn't have the proof yet. I didn't want to accuse her blindly, but I knew I had to find out the truth. That evening, I decided to do some digging on my own. I knew she'd be home late. That's when she usually slipped out, pretending to run errands or meet her friends. I set up my phone to record just in case. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but I knew I needed evidence. I remembered that damn Secret Service footage I'd seen, and I thought maybe I could find something similar on her devices or in her car. I went through her emails, her texts. Nothing concrete, just the usual bitchy crap about her friends and work. Then I found it. A deleted message thread on her phone. I managed to recover some of it. It was her talking to someone named Alex. That's when my stomach dropped again. The way she described how excited she was, how she loved spending time with him, how he made her feel alive. I read it all, feeling sick. She was so fucking mean in those texts, calling him her secret, saying she'd do anything to see him again. I could see the lies in her words, the way she played me for a fool. I felt like I'd been punched again, but this time in the gut. I'd always known she had a bitchy streak, but this was a whole new level of betrayal. I decided I'd confront her that night. I was ready to lay everything out, her lies, her cheating, her treachery. But I also knew I had to be smart. I couldn't just storm in and accuse her blindly. I needed to catch her in the act, or at least have undeniable proof. I wanted her to see what I saw. I wanted her to understand the damage she'd done, how deep her lies ran. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was furious. The kind of fury that fuels revenge. I never thought I'd be in this position, but here I was, standing at the edge of it all, ready to tear her world apart if I had to. That night I finally saw her slip out again, looking over her shoulder like she thought someone was following her. I decided to follow her once more, staying far enough back but close enough to see what she was up to. It was then I saw her walk into this upscale hotel downtown. My heart pounded. She lied about where she was going again. I hung around outside, watching her check in with some guy. The same one from the texts, the one she called Alex. I watched her go into the room, her high heels clicking on the marble floor. I wanted to burst in there to confront her, but I didn't. Instead, I stayed hidden, letting her have her secret rendezvous. That's when I realized this wasn't just an affair. This was a full-blown betrayal of everything I thought we had. I felt numb and furious all at once. I knew I had to do something, but I also knew this was only the beginning. This wasn't just about her cheating anymore. This was about her lying, manipulating, and using a damn lookalike to pretend everything was fine. I had the evidence now, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not without consequences. And I was already planning how to make her regret every lie, every sneaky moment. This was going to be a reckoning. I just didn't know how far I was willing to go yet. The following days were a whirlwind of chaos inside my head. I kept replaying everything I saw, every lie I uncovered, every time she looked at me like I was just another obstacle to her little game. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The anger simmered beneath my skin, mixed with a deep sense of betrayal I'd never experienced before. I'd always prided myself on being a calm, rational person, but now I felt like I was losing my mind. How could she lie so effortlessly? How could she cheat with a guy who looked exactly like me, who could step into my shoes and fool even the closest friends? The thought made me sick. One thing became clear: I couldn't let her keep doing this. I needed a plan, and I needed to be strategic. I decided I'd gather all the evidence I could, then confront her directly, but with a twist. She needed to see that I knew everything. I wasn't going to be some naive husband who got played. No, I was going to make her believe I was one step ahead, that I'd found out the truth and I was ready to use it. I started by installing a hidden camera in the living room and at her work desk. I didn't trust her to stick to her lies, and I wanted to catch her in the act if possible. It felt sick to do that, but I knew I had to see her true face once and for all. I also began digging into her phone, copying all her messages and social media activity. Every lie, every sneaky rendezvous, every secret kept from me. I wanted to keep everything on record, ready to spring my trap when the moment was right. Meanwhile, she continued her behavior, cold, bitchy, dismissive. She'd snap at me over nothing, then turn around and act like the innocent victim. I could see through her facade now. She thought she was clever, that she could hide her lies forever. But I had her pattern down. I knew she'd slip up soon, and I was just waiting for that moment. Then, out of nowhere, something strange happened. My phone buzzed one evening with an unknown number. I answered cautiously. It was a voice I recognized immediately, deep, confident, with that slight hint of mockery. It was him, the guy who looked like me. He'd been watching her too, apparently, and he knew I was onto her. He warned me to be careful, that she was dangerous, that she'd do anything to protect her secret. It threw me for a loop. Who the hell was this guy? Why was he involved? Was he just a pawn, or was he more? That call made me realize this mess went way deeper than I thought. It wasn't just some affair with a lookalike. There were layers of deception, secrets, and dangerous games involved. This man, whoever he was, had been trained to mimic me, to replace me when needed. It was like some twisted spy movie. I felt like I was in over my head, but I also knew I couldn't back down now. I needed to see this through, no matter how messy or dangerous it got. I decided I'd confront her directly that night. I had enough evidence now, hidden recordings, her texts, her secret meetings. She thought she was untouchable, that her lies would never catch up to her, but I was done playing nice. I was sick of her bitchy attitude, her lies, her betrayal. I was going to give her one last chance to come clean, or I'd do what I'd been planning all along, expose her completely. That evening I waited until she came home, trying to keep my composure. When she walked in, I looked her straight in the eyes and told her I knew everything. I laid out the evidence, the texts, the videos, the phone records. Her face twisted into that familiar smirk, that "I'm better than you" look she always wore when she thought she was winning. She lied. Of course, denied everything, called me paranoid, said I was imagining things. That's her favorite trick, lying her way out of everything, pretending she's the victim. But I didn't buy it, not anymore. I wasn't just hurt, I was done being played for a fool. The confrontation exploded quickly. She got bitchy, defensive, throwing accusations at me, saying I was insecure, jealous, overthinking. She even had the nerve to accuse me of cheating, of being paranoid because I was possessive. She kept twisting the story, trying to make me look crazy, but I knew better now. I knew she'd been lying for a long time, and I had the proof. I felt a strange mix of rage and relief. Relief that I finally saw through her, rage that she'd done this to me, to us. I decided then and there I'd had enough. I told her she needed to leave, that I couldn't stay married to someone so manipulative, so dishonest. She threw a fit, hysterical, crying, yelling, trying to guilt-trip me into staying. But I was done. No more bullshit, no more lies. I knew what she was capable of, and I wasn't going to be her puppet anymore. I told her to pack her shit and get out that night. She did, of course, bitching and insulting me the whole way. That night I sat alone in the house that I used to think was our sanctuary. It felt empty, cold, like a shell of what it once was. I was angry, but I also felt a strange sense of liberation. The truth had come out, and I was finally free from her manipulations. But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. The betrayal ran so deep, and I had a long road ahead of me to process everything. Still, I was glad I saw her for what she truly was, nothing more than a bitchy liar and a user. Now I had to rebuild from the wreckage she left behind. The aftermath hit me harder than I expected. After she left, the silence in the house was deafening, and everything felt so heavy. I kept thinking about how she'd lied for so long, how she'd gone to such lengths just to keep her secret. It was like waking up from a nightmare, only to realize the nightmare was real, and I'd been living inside it all along. I kept wondering how she managed to pull the wool over my eyes for so many years. I thought we had a good marriage, that I knew her well. Turns out I knew nothing. And the worst part, I didn't even want to believe she'd stoop this low, cheating with a man who looked exactly like me, trained to act like I do, to replace me in every way. It felt like a betrayal, not just of me, but of everything we built. Initially, I was furious. The pure rage fueled my days. I wanted to tear her apart with words, but I also knew I had to keep my head clear. I wasn't just angry. I was hurt, devastated, humiliated. How could she do this? How could she spend years lying to my face, pretending everything was normal while she was sneaking around with her damn clone? I didn't sleep for days, replaying all the moments she acted strange, all the times I'd brushed off her bitchy attitude as just bad mood swings. Now I saw it all differently, with the clarity only betrayal can bring. I decided I had to do something about it, something drastic. I couldn't just let her walk away, thinking she'd won. I had the evidence, yes, but I needed leverage, something to really shake her up. I started by contacting some private investigators I knew from work. I wanted to know just how deep her lies went, whether she had other affairs, or if this was just a one-time thing with her doppelganger. The Pie's reports weren't pretty. She'd been out with him multiple times, sometimes even staying overnight in that fancy hotel. The texts I'd recovered started revealing more than I'd initially seen. She was planning to run away, to disappear, and I knew I had to act fast. The next step for me was confronting her again, only this time with everything laid bare. I got my hands on some recordings I'd installed in the house, and I played them for her over the phone. Her bitchy voice, demanding, dismissive, callous, claimed she was done with me, that I was a jealous fool and that she'd need a break. I told her I had enough, that I knew about the affair, about the double, about her lies. I told her I was done being played, that I wanted her out of my life for good. She started crying. But it was the fake kind. She always knew how to manipulate her tears, make herself look innocent. I didn't fall for it. I told her she'd better leave that night or I'd send the evidence to everyone I knew, including the media. She huffed, called me crazy, and told me I was overreacting. That's classic her, deny, deny, deny. But I had no intention of backing down. I was finally seeing her for what she was, nothing but a manipulative, bitchy, lying cheater who'd do anything for her own selfishness. I told her she could take her stuff and leave, that I was done trying to save a sinking ship. She screamed, called me a control freak, told me I'd regret this. Honestly, I didn't care. At that moment, I realized I didn't want her back, not after what I'd uncovered. I was just glad I hadn't let her destroy me completely. That night I sat in the dark, staring at the empty space where she used to be. I felt a strange mix of relief and despair. Relief because I finally knew the truth and I didn't have to keep pretending. But despair because I'd lost my wife, someone I loved. Or at least thought I loved. The betrayal cut deep and I felt betrayed not just by her but by everything I believed in. I kept asking myself how I'd missed all the signs, how I'd been so blind. I thought about all the times she'd been bitchy, dismissive, distant. Now I understood. She'd been hiding this secret the whole time and I was just a pawn in her game. In the days that followed, I started to piece myself back together. I took down all the evidence I'd collected, saved it for whatever future I might need. I didn't want to keep dwelling on her or what she did anymore. Instead, I focused on rebuilding my life piece by piece. I finally admitted to myself that I deserved better than someone who lied so effortlessly, who thought she could replace me with a clone and get away with it. It was a brutal lesson in trust, betrayal, and the importance of always watching your back. But I also learned something else, about myself. I realized I was stronger than I believed, that I could survive even the worst kind of betrayal. And I promised myself I'd never let anyone do this to me again. It took me a while to fully process everything, but eventually I realized I had to move forward. The house felt colder without her presence. Every corner reminded me of her bitchy smirks, her lies, the way she dismissed my feelings like they didn't matter. Honestly, part of me still couldn't believe she'd gone this far, lying, cheating, sneaking around with someone who looked just like me. That was the real punch in the gut. The thought that she'd find someone so similar to me, someone who could fool even the closest friends, it was almost laughable if it weren't so tragic. I started by clearing out her things. It was like ripping off a Band-Aid, painful but necessary. Her clothes, her jewelry, even her stupid little vanity mirror she always carried around. I didn't want her lingering in my space, in my life anymore. I felt like I was detoxing from the poison she left behind. As I packed her stuff, I kept thinking about how she'd lied all those years, how she'd played me like a damn pawn. The worst part was realizing how much I'd trusted her, how I'd convinced myself she was different from all those other women who cheat and lie. Turns out, she was just another bitch hiding her true nature behind that fake bitchy attitude. Once she was gone, I decided I needed closure. I couldn't just let her walk out of my life without understanding why she did this, without figuring out what was missing in her head that made her betray me so completely. I reached out to some of her friends, people she confided in, hoping they could give me some insight. Most of them were clueless, saying she was under stress, going through a phase, or just being her bitchy self. Yeah, right, I didn't buy it for a second. I knew better now. She was malicious, manipulative, and utterly self-centered. She didn't care who she hurt as long as she got what she wanted. Meanwhile, I started to lean on my friends and family more. It was embarrassing at first, admitting how deeply I'd been played, how blind I'd been to her true nature. But they were understanding, reminding me that I deserved better, that I'd been through enough, that I needed to focus on myself and rebuild. Slowly, I started to find parts of my old self again, more confident, more guarded. I still felt the sting of betrayal, but I refused to let it define me. A part of me was curious about what she was doing now if she'd really disappeared for good, but I also knew better than to keep obsessing over her. She was done and I was better off without her. Still, I kept some of the evidence, just in case. I had her texts, the recordings, the proof of her affair. I wasn't planning to use them unless she tried to come back, or unless I needed to protect myself from her lies again. I was done being naive. I'd learned my lesson the hard way: trust no one blindly, especially not a woman who lied so effortlessly and cheated with a man who looked like me. The final thing I did was cut all contact. Blocked her on social media, changed my number, even moved some of my sensitive files to a secure location. I wanted to erase her from my life, at least for now. I needed peace, and I didn't want her to mess with my head anymore. I knew she'd try to come back, too. It's been some sob story about how she was sorry or confused. But I wasn't falling for that again. I'd been through enough. I just wanted to heal, to find a new sense of normal that didn't involve her bitchy lies and her fake-ass game. Looking back, I realize I've learned a lot from this whole nightmare. Trust is fragile, people lie, and sometimes the people you think love you most are capable of the worst things. But I also learned I'm stronger than I thought. I survived this mess, and I'm still standing. I don't regret uncovering the truth, even if it was ugly, because now I know what real betrayal looks like, and I won't let anyone get that close again without earning my trust. The pain will fade, but the lessons won't. And honestly, I'm just glad I saw her for what she was before she completely tore me apart. Now, I have to figure out what's next, probably rebuild my life from scratch, piece by piece. But at least I know the truth. That's worth everything. In the end, I realized that betrayal cuts deeper than most people want to admit. It's not just about the affair itself, but about the years of lies, manipulation, and the way she made me question everything: myself, my judgment, my trust. She managed to do something I never thought possible. She replaced the real me with a fake, a mirror that reflected her own selfish needs. That realization hit hard, and I knew I'd carry the scars for a long time. But through all the pain, I also found a strange sense of clarity. I learned to trust my instincts more, to listen to that little voice warning me when something's off. I learned that some people are just inherently manipulative and willing to lie, cheat, and even betray those closest to them without remorse. And I learned that I don't need someone like her in my life, someone so dishonest and bitchy that she'd cheat with a damn double of me just to feel alive. Now, I focus on rebuilding myself. I go to therapy, take care of my health, reconnect with friends and family who genuinely care. I don't dwell on what's lost anymore, because I understand that sometimes the biggest act of self-love is walking away from a person who only brings you down. I've become more guarded, more aware, less naive. I know there are dangers out there, but I also know my worth. I guess the biggest lesson I want to share is that betrayal is the end if you refuse to let it be. It's a brutal wake-up call, yes, but also a chance to grow stronger, smarter, more cautious. If someone can lie and cheat so effortlessly, they're not worth your pain or your time. Sometimes, the most savage thing you can do is walk away and refuse to let someone else's darkness define you. So here's my advice. Trust yourself, stay vigilant, and never ignore the red flags. When someone shows you who they truly are, believe them, because in the end, you're the only one responsible for your happiness and your peace. Don't let anyone, especially a bitchy liar, take that away from you. I've learned that the hard way, but I'm better for it. And I hope anyone else in my shoes can find the strength to walk away too. Because life's too short to waste it on people who only bring you pain and fake smiles.